Namaste, Sitaram. A pleasant good morning. Welcome to Rudraaya. I'm your host, Nisha Sharma, and Rudraaya is being brought to you with the kind compliments of Maharujadev Mandir. And of course, our Mandir is located at 850 Tapscott Road, Unit 34 in Scarborough, with Tapscott and McNichol being our closest intersection. So today's program is a very special program. We want to dedicate this program to Dr. Chabi and of course his family. And we all have pets, especially during this COVID time. Our pets that we have at home have they've all contributed to bringing comfort to us. And it is with a heavy heart that we dedicate this program to Dr. Chabi. He lost his man's best friend is your puppy, is your dog. And after so many years of having the company of his dog, he's lost his pet. So this program is dedicated to all of the animals and to all of you who have lost your pet, because when the pet becomes part of the family and you lose them, it's like losing a member of your family. So we'd like to dedicate this program to Dr. Chabi and his family. Without further ado, we'll get straight into our pravachan with our spiritual leader, Pandit Ravi Sharma.
प्रेम से बोले श्री उमापति महादेव की जय. Life, in fact, is a great mystery, and more mysterious than life is death. Death, indeed, is a great mystery. If one understands death, then the depth of living will be lived. To understand life and death, it is very important to understand the whole gamut on how karma works. The whole theory of karma is a very deep topic, but just reflect on this beautiful story. It is one of the Upa-kathas of the Ramayana. It is said that on one occasion, after the great war, in the end of the Ramayana, Shri Ram, he is administering, looking after the needs of the kingdom. Shri Ram would meet all those who needed. The time was called as the Ram Raj, the time of perfect living. Shri Ram tells Lakshman, go and see if there is anyone on the outside seeking advice. Lakshman, he goes, looks on the outside, he comes back and says, Lord, no one is there again. Shri Ram, he says that, O Lakshmana, go once again. This time, when Lakshman goes on the outside, he sees a dog, and the dog was howling. The dog was crying. There was blood oozing from the head of this dog. And so, Lakshman, he brings the dog inside. And so Sri Ramchandra ji, when he looked at the dog, he could have understood the language of animals. And he says towards the dog, why are you in this position? The dog says to Shri Ram that I have come to meet you and I want you to give me fair justice as you give justice towards all. Because injustice has been done to me. And so Shri Ram, he says that what type of injustice has been done to you? The dog stated, Shri Ram, I was simply lying down, doing no harm to anyone. And suddenly, this old Brahmin beggar comes and he kicks me and he hits me on my head with a stick. And therefore injustice is being done, has been done to me. And so he has to be punished. Bhagwan Sri Ram, he says that he gives justice towards all. But how is he to give justice towards this animal, this dog? He says, Lakshman, go and bring this old Brahmin. And so the old Brahmin was brought forth by Sri Ram in front of Shri Ram. Sri Ram looked at him and said, why did you do this? Why did you kick? Why did you hit this dog? The old beggar stated, I was very hungry. I had to pass through this narrow lane. This dog was lying down. I told the dog to move, but the dog did not move, and therefore in a fit of anger, I hit the dog. And so it was for this reason that he is in this position. Shri Ram, he listened carefully, he began to reflect. He went into deep thinking. He says that one is the rule of a human being, another is the rule of animals. So Shri Ram, he tells the dog that you tell me what type of punishment should be given to this old Brahmin. The dog goes and whispers something in the ear of the old Brahmin. The story goes on that the old Brahmin was told by the dog to Shri Ram that he would be made to go and sit upon a beautiful, huge elephant, and with great pomp and celebration to go on his merry way. Shri Ram, when he heard the request of the dog, he said, be very careful about what you ask. Instead of punishing this old Brahmin, this beggar, you want to give him a reward? Is that right? And so the doggy answered, previously, he said, what type of punishment is this that you want to reward him, although he has hit you in such a manner? And so the dog answered, he stated, Shri Ram, in my previous life, I was a great man. I was a great monk. I was the chief priest. And therefore, instead of doing my spiritual sadhana, I got so lost in running this monastery. And so many people respected me and they came and they bowed before me. My ego was built up. Instead of destroying my ego and doing my spiritual sadhana, I had the illusion that I was most enlightened. And therefore, the pleasures of all of this, they were received, and therefore, this caused me to not practice my spiritual sadhana, my spiritual task. Even though so many people respected me, I got caught up and I fell victim. And so when I died, that papa or that sinful tendencies came and overtook me, and hence I was born now as a dog in this birth, and therefore the punishment is I got hit in such manner. So, Shriram, if this man becomes a Mahant, he may also get caught in the same trap, and therefore let that be his reward. Let that be his punishment, said the dog. He will come back as a dog once again. Friends, devotees, the moral of this story is that whatever position that you are in, if you don't dexterously use that position, it may appear for the outward world that you are rewarded. But if you don't use the karma, the actions rightly, dexterously, with accumulation, what happens is that you may think that you're going forward, but this also will become your downfall. Therefore, practice jnanam, jagrata, in whatever position that you are in. Always be alert of the external karma. Guard the internal karma also. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shantihi, Harihi, Om.
अन्ना पवन कुमार हमारे घर कीर्तन में। अम्बियान संग राम जी को लाना, अम्बियान संग राम जी को लाना, लाना जनक दुलार, लाना जनक दुलार हमारे घर कीर्तन में। आना पवन कुमार हमारे घर कीर्तन में। कृष्ण जी को लाना, राधा जी को लाना, कृष्ण जी को लाना, राधा जी को लाना, लाना लख धातार, लाना लख धातार हमारे घर कीर्तन में। आना पवन कुमार हमारे घर कीर्तन में। शिव जी को लाना, मैया जी को लाना, शिव जी को लाना, मैया जी को लाना, लादा मदन मुरार, लाना मदन मुरार हमारे घर कीर्तन में। आना पवन कुमार हमारे घर कीर्तन में। भरत जी को लाना, लक्ष्मण जी को लाना, भरत जी को लाना, लक्ष्मण जी को लाना, लाना सब परिवार, लाना सब परिवार हमारे घर कीर्तन में। आना पवन कुमार हमारे घर कीर्तन में। आना पवन कुमार हमारे घर कीर्तन में, हमारे घर कीर्तन में।
My dear viewers, I hope you've enjoyed this morning's pravachan and of course the importance of animals in our life. And this pravachan was also dedicated in loving memory of Charlie, who is the loving pet of Dr. Chabi and his family. So moving right along, we'd also like to take an opportunity to show gratitude to our sponsors who came forward and supported our program that was held at the Mandir on November 27, Zindagi Chalate Rahte Hai. We had a number of sponsors, and of course our corporate sponsors would really like to acknowledge them and say thank you so much for your contribution and your continued contribution to our cause. And would like to start off by thanking Ram's Welding Company, Lotus Funeral Home, who is our main sponsor for the event, the Lymphedema Fitter as well, ENF Display, and of course we would also like to acknowledge Dr. Chabi as well, was one of our sponsors, and Pandit Rudy and his family as well. Would also like to acknowledge them for their contribution. And of course our executive producer Gary Khan, who also came forward and supported the program. So thank you very much for the continued support. We'll now join our own Dr. Sachin Ramkisoon for our health segment.
Sitaram, and welcome to Health Corner. I am Dr. Sachin Ramkisoon, and today is the final session in our 6-part series on mental illness. Today we are discussing seasonal affective disorder, a fairly common condition that many are surprised to hear they may have. Seasonal affective disorder is a type of depression that is related to changes in seasons. The symptoms typically start in the fall or early winter and resolve in the spring or summer. The depressive symptoms start out mild and becomes more severe as the winter season progresses. This is why seasonal affective disorder is also referred to as the winter blues or seasonal depression. What is interesting is that the prevalence of seasonal affective disorder increases the more north you are. For example, 1.5% of people in Florida may be diagnosed with seasonal affective disorder. But in Canada and Alaska, this number is close to 10%, or 1 in 10 people. Some of these symptoms of seasonal affective disorder are similar to depression, although may not be as severe. You may experience feelings of depression, loss of interest in activities, low energy, sleeping problems, changes in appetite or weight, feeling agitated, difficulty concentrating, feeling hopeless or guilty, and having frequent thoughts of death or suicide. Seasonal affective disorder is thought to be caused by a combination of factors. The first is the reduced level of sunlight in fall and winter, which disrupts the body's internal clock, leading to depressive symptoms. Another cause are changes in the brain's neurotransmitters such as serotonin and melatonin, caused by a change in season and reduced light exposure. Seasonal affective disorder is more common in women, and more common if there is a personal or family history of depression. As mentioned, seasonal affective disorder appears to be more common among people who live further away from the equator, and this is due to the decreasing amount of light exposure during the winter months. If you have noticed these symptoms of seasonal affective disorder, then you should seek assistance by a medical professional. This condition is usually diagnosed by history and physical exam, although sometimes investigations are done to rule out any other cause of depression. The treatment for seasonal affective disorder includes light therapy, medications, psychotherapy, and physical exercise. The idea behind light therapy is that light exposure mimics the natural outdoor light, and this helps mood by correcting the levels of neurotransmitters in the brain. This is good to know since daily exposure to sunlight has been shown to decrease the incidence of seasonal affective disorder. Therefore, if you experience mild symptoms, getting outdoors and enjoying some physical activity can help overcome the decreased mood. Sometimes more formal psychotherapy or even medication may be necessary if light therapy alone does not work. To prevent the onset of seasonal affective disorder, try to make your environment at home brighter by opening blinds, changing the light bulbs to include the white or blue spectrum, and try to spend some time near the windows. Try to get outside when you can, especially in the mornings. Exercise and other physical activity helps reduce symptoms, along with meditation and yoga. This is the conclusion of our 6-part series on mental illness. This is a topic that was requested by multiple viewers, and rightfully so. As we have seen, mental illness is very prevalent in our society, and often it is not addressed or given the attention it deserves. Many mental health conditions still carry a negative stigma of shame and embarrassment, despite the efforts to reverse this misconception. By trying to understand these conditions a bit more, perhaps we can do our small part in getting those who suffer from mental illness the help that they deserve, and do so without judgment and with the dignity and respect that they deserve. Thank you for joining me on Health Corner, and I look forward to speaking with you again next week on Rudraaya.
My dear viewers, I hope you've enjoyed the health segment. As always, we thank Dr. Sachin Ramkisoon for making the time. We know that this time is busy for frontline workers, and so we thank him as well. Would also like to say a special thank you to one of our directors, Anthony Saith, who is also a major sponsor for our program that came forward as well and supported the program. And of course, Accurate Auto Repair. So thank you so much to all of you who came forward and supported this worthy cause. We'll get straight into a corporate segment with Kamalji from Lotus Funeral Home. And of course, we've gotten some constructive feedback regarding Rudraaya on the purpose of airing the corporate segment, which is also Kamal's report, where he enlightens us on the importance of being prepared for that day. You know, the one thing that we are sure of is that we will all die someday, one day, and we make preparations for a multitude of things, but do we really prepare for that day that we say goodbye to our family and our friends? And Kamal's message is to share the importance of knowing that that day, you know what, that is not based on how old we are or how young we are, or you know, if we've lived our life to the fullest, it can come at any time. So being prepared for that day is extremely important, and Kamalji always shares valuable information to help us to think, to sort of, you know, have that forward thinking and that foresight in terms of preparing for that day as well as we prepare for everything else in our lives. So I'd like to introduce you to Kamalji from Lotus Funeral Home.
My name is Kamal Bardwaj, and I'm the owner of Lotus Funeral and Cremation Center in Toronto and Kitchener Funeral Homes and Crematorium in Kitchener. I'm also a licensed funeral director. Discussing a loved one's last wishes is incredibly important, but surprisingly, only 1% of us have had the conversation in depth. It's understandable. There's still a taboo in society that surrounds death and bereavement. No one really wants to acknowledge that one day their loved ones will no longer be around and have to handle conversations that can be both uncomfortable and upsetting. However, speaking about death openly with family members creates the opportunity to understand their preferences for medical care and funeral arrangements. It's rewarding to organize a funeral knowing that it was exactly what they wanted. Trouble is, talking about these things never feels urgent until there's no option but to discuss it. Often this is due to a loved one's ill health, but even then it's not necessarily too late. Talking about death can actually be cathartic, as many people experience a need to talk and voice their feelings. Of course, it's easy to think, I'll talk to them closer to the time, or now is not the right time. Life, however, is unpredictable, and talking to your loved ones about death should be a priority. At Lotus Funeral and Cremation Center and Kitchener Funeral Homes and Crematorium, we operate 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Our crematorium is located in our building, so we never have to leave our building in cold or bad weather for cremation. Our crematorium space can have a large group of people to attend the witnessing of the cremation as well. For Hindu families, we provide all the puja items, including fresh leaves and a havan kund. We have large halls that can accommodate large seating to smaller ones. We are centrally located for families in the west and for families in the east. For more information, please contact me from the telephone number on the screen. Thank you for watching, and see you next week on Rudraaya. Sitaram.
Life is beautiful, but death is inevitable. I realized this when my dad passed away. So much pain, and amidst all this, the worry of arranging a funeral. Thankfully, in all this, Kamal stood by me. From the viewing to the cremation, he arranged it all at one location. Once someone is gone, they don't come back. But Lotus Funeral Home knows how to give them a respectable farewell.
Lotus Funeral Home. Life must be celebrated.
My dear viewers, I hope you've enjoyed today's segment of Rudraaya. And of course, again, there are many, many sponsors and too many names to call. So at the end of the program today, we will send special thank you to all our sponsors that came forward. And of course, we will be remiss if we didn't mention Chris Gajada, who always supports us for every event. So thank you so much to all our sponsors. And of course, to all of you remaining sponsors, which is so many names to be called. You will see the list of names at the end of Rudraaya today. We thank you all for coming forward and sponsoring the program. And of course, we exceeded our goal for this program, which is going to help us to sustain Maharujadev Mandir as well as Rudraaya TV. Would like to thank our kind sponsors at Maharujadev Mandir as well as our executive producer Gary Khan for making Rudraaya possible. And of course, until we meet again next week, have a blessed week. Namaste.
जान सके तो जान रे मन भजले सीतारा श्री राम सुख हे धाम रे मन भजले सीतारा चोर कपट चल जिसने गाया जीवन का सुख उसने बहाया राम नाम तो मंत्र ही सुख का राम नाम तो मंत्र ही सुख का भज लेत जय अभिमान भजले जय विमान रे मन भजले सीताराम श्री राम सुख के धाम रे मन भजले सीताराम हरे मन भजले सीताराम सोच समझ चिंतन कर खन में सोच समझ चिंतन कर मन में